Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Red Tool House. Today I'm in the garden and I've got a few helpers. I don't know if you can see that. But we have aphids. We've discovered that we've got aphids on our tomato plants. So I did a little research yesterday, and simply because I'm not familiar with how to handle aphids on your plants and still keep your garden organic. So I did some research and watched several YouTube videos yesterday about how you can just simply spray the aphids off with a somewhat strong water hose. And because aphids are such weak bugs, they most likely are not going to be able to crawl back up on your plant. However, you may need to do it a few days in a row to get all of them off, and you really want to make sure that you're spraying the undersides of each leaf on your plant. So I'm going to do that, try that for a couple of days in a row, and see if I can eliminate it in that way. And then the next recommendation was to use just dish soap, and like I believe it said 2 tablespoons of dish soap or in a gallon of water, and spray that all over your plants. However, I guess some dish soaps can be harmful to the plant, so you want to test that out on a few leaves maybe before you completely do all of your plants. So that would be my next step. And then we've used neem oil in the past on our blueberries bushes and also on our fruit trees, so that's also I think I'll resort to that third. So that's what I'm going to be doing today in the garden, because I've noticed that on 1 or 2 plants in particular, the backs of the leaves have quite a few, and I'll show you some of those as I go along. Now here is the first tomato plant where I noticed so many, covering the backs of these leaves. And it's been just on the tomato plants that I've noticed so far, on just a couple of them, not all of them. And I'm assuming that from what I've read that they will multiply quickly, so the sooner I get them off the better. But I don't think I've noticed any on the peppers, and I don't even know if they like peppers, so maybe that's why. Okay, so spraying all of my tomato plants with the water hose, I thought was just going to be an easy task. I've got 24 tomato plants, and which may be a lot less than some of you may have, but 24 tomato plants, and spraying off both sides of the leaves, of all the leaves on the plant, making sure not to miss any, took quite some time. But I did finish, and took a short break, and then came back out now that most of them are dry. And this tomato plant right here is either I missed some or they're back. A few of them are back. So this particular tomato plant was just completely covered in aphids. The rest of the tomatoes they had a few. There were a couple of plants that were probably 50% covered. But this particular one was, every leaf was completely covered, and the stems and all the branches, everything completely covered. So I came back out to check him specifically. But as you can see, there's still some on a few of the leaves, and I'm seeing some back here too. So I'm going to go ahead and respray this tomato plant, and I'll also check the rest of the tomatoes to see if any of them have more aphids still left on them, because the videos that I watch said to make sure that you don't miss any, like I said, which can be quite difficult when you have so many leaves on every tomato plant. And so yes, maybe this should have been caught a lot sooner, but hey, I'm doing it now, so we'll see how it works. Okay, so I came back out after lunch and checked on the tomato plants just to see if there were any more aphids on the plants. And there are a couple that have some aphids on just a few of the leaves, and so maybe they are leaves that I missed. But I'm going to go back out and spray those again. And as you can notice in the background here, Troy has brought quite a few loads, side-by-side loads of wood chips that he chipped up last night and also this morning. So I'm going to spend some time taking these and putting them here on the pathways and along the inside the perimeter of the fence, where that's all grass right now and growing up, and it's kind of hard to weed eat in there. So I'm going to spread out these wood chips, and then that'll make it better for our garden next year to have these wood chips broken down for soil if we plan to expand our garden next year like we've been talking about. Okay, time for a water break and some shade. I've got 2 rows completed, so I'm really happy with that, and I'll take a break and maybe I'll finish it again later today, or maybe I won't. And you're probably wondering, Kelly, you're just a little girl. Where are the men to help you? Oh, you're not thinking that? I am. Anyway, they are working today. Troy and the guys are putting in culvert. We've had some dry weather lately, and so it's a good time to do that. And we have a road, hillside road on the back of the property that has been washed away quite a bit. And so we have the culvert and we have the dry weather, so they're working on that today. So I'm working on the garden and trying to get as much of those wood chips put away as possible, and that way that would be a big help to Troy. Okay, you guys, so I was just finished spraying off the first plant, respraying off the first plant, and there were quite a few aphids back on there again. I'm not really sure how this technique's going to work, but anyway, I came to the second plant that was most infested, and as I walked over here, look what I found. There is a ladybug, and we know that ladybugs are aphid eaters, so I want to leave her in there. Seriously, am I just following mindless recommendations from YouTube? I guess so. It's somewhere to start. Okay, you guys, so I am headed out. This is the next day, and I'm headed out to the garden to see if spraying the plants with water was going to be enough for the aphids. Well, I am seeing not nearly as many on this tomato plant. And like I said, this is the one that was completely covered yesterday, and I did spray him off twice yesterday. So I will say that it looks much better than when I started. Oh, there's a bunch on here. I'm not sure if you're seeing all that in there, but they are all over this particular stem. So there are quite a few on this particular plant, and I'm going to go and check on a few of the other ones as well. But it's much better than it was originally. So what I think I'll do is try again with spraying them down, making sure that I'm getting them as good as I can, and then if there's still quite a few, then maybe we'll go ahead and try with the dishwashing soap. Okay, today is day 3 of this experiment in the garden. And so day 1, we sprayed with a water hose to remove all of the aphids. And we knew that we were going to need to spray again, most likely. And so we did do that yesterday. And there are a lot less than what we started with, but still have quite a few. So I'm going to move on to another step that has also been recommended online. And that is using just dish soap and water. And I've got about 32 ounces here with 1 teaspoon of dishwashing liquid. So I'm going to spray that on. Now, one thing that was recommended is that you don't completely saturate your plants from the get-go. The dish soap can affect the plants, and if there's something strong in the detergent, then that can be bad for your plants. So I think what I'm going to do is just spray. They're not completely covered like they were before, and I'll show you what we have on there. It looks like in this area right here on these particular leaves, there are quite a few, so I'm going to go ahead and spray those. But on the rest of the plant where there aren't any bugs, I'm just going to let that go. And I'm also not spraying in the direct sunlight, which was another recommendation. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll see how that works. I'll check the plants back again tomorrow and see if that happens to be any better. Most likely, well, I would guess that by spraying the plants every day with, strong pressure water is going to make it better and better, just from what I'm seeing. However, that uses quite a bit of water, and so if you don't have unlimited water to use, then you may not want to go that route. And I've only done 2 days. I did spray the plants on the first day twice, so 3 sprays now, and with just water. And so I'm going to go ahead and spray them with the dish soap and just see if that's going to do better faster. Okay, so I just finished spraying all of the tomato plants that I could find any aphids on, and I went a little heavy-handed. I know that I said that I was just going to spray a few of the leaves, check tomorrow to see if it causes any damage, but I just kept spraying and couldn't stop myself. So we'll see tomorrow if we have dead tomato plants, or if it's going to be okay. I think as I keep going, I just keep finding more and more, so I just kept spraying. So we'll see if we have any tomato plants left. Actually, I know that we have 24 total plants, and I know that 8 of them are Chadwick cherries, and literally I only found 2 aphids on those 8 plants. So I sprayed those, but on the rest of my plants, there was more than that. 2 plants still in particular are the ones that I've had the most problems with, so I doused them pretty well. So we'll see what we have left tomorrow, and then decide what we're going to do from there. Okay, day 4. We've had a bit of rain today, but I was able to get out in the garden earlier today before the rain and check on the plants after spraying them with the dish soap yesterday. And like I said, I sprayed them liberally just because I couldn't help myself and wanted to get rid of those aphids so badly. And when I came out before the rain had a chance to wash off any of the dishwashing soap, I wanted to see, was there any damage to the plants? Were there aphids? And it looks like there is no damage whatsoever to the plants, and the aphids are still alive and booming well. So I'm going to another step, and I know that originally I talked about the 3rd step would be to try neem oil, and we have tried that on our blueberry bushes, and I may end up trying that eventually. But in the meantime, I checked out this book from the library, and have been reading through that today just to see some organic guides to taking care of aphids, and ran across a recipe that they recommended for putting together for aphids and flea beetles and a couple other pests that you would have in the garden. So this is a mixture of water and alcohol, just rubbing alcohol. And so it also says to try it out on a few leaves first to see if it's going to damage the plants. And then it also said that it could be a couple of days before any damage shows up, which I'm assuming that's also a possibility with the dishwashing soap. I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and spray, and hopefully I will just test it on a few areas for today and see if it does cause any damage. Okay, today is day 6, and I sprayed with the last type of spray, which was the mixture of rubbing alcohol and water, on day 4. We had some rain after I sprayed in the night of day 4 and into day 5, so I just came back out yesterday and sprayed just a little bit. And this time, just like when I sprayed the rubbing alcohol and water mixture the first time, I didn't spray a whole lot because I was afraid that it was going to possibly kill the plant. So this time I did not spray a whole lot. I sprayed in some specific areas on the plant that I knew were pretty infested with the aphids. So I sprayed those several areas and knew which areas those were, and then, like I said, came back out yesterday on day 5 and resprayed those same areas on 2 of the tomato plants, just in case the rain had washed it off. After day 4 of spraying that, I came out and I noticed that in some of the areas where I sprayed, the back of the leaves had turned, like it had a black coating. It didn't look like it was killing it, but it almost looked like the back of the leaves were black. And I'll show you a little bit of that. There's not much of that left on the plants, but there was a little bit of that. However, there's still aphids. And so I'm thinking, are these aphids dead and they're just still on there, and I haven't been able to come off after the spraying? But no, I did pick a few of them off to see if they were still alive, and they are still alive. So I think I will go ahead and spray with neem oil just so that the population doesn't get out of control again and completely take over the plants. But other than that, I mean, the plants are looking very healthy. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do today, and then I will let you know what it looks like tomorrow after spraying with the neem oil, if it's much of a difference. So thanks for sticking with me. Okay guys, a quick update today on day 7. I sprayed with the neem oil and water mixture yesterday, and I'm not seeing a whole lot of difference this morning. Still seems to be about the same number of aphids on this particular tomato plant, and I did give him a good spray yesterday with the mixture. So I'm going to go ahead and spray him again today, and just keep checking. There's still a small number. It's not, completely covered like it was in the beginning. So I'm just going to go ahead and spray him again with the neem oil and water, and we'll check again tomorrow. Okay, today is day 8. So I'm in the garden checking the tomato plants after the neem oil, and I'm pretty impressed at the number of aphids that have been reduced. I mean, there are quite a bit less than what there were yesterday. And so I'm not sure if it's the neem oil or if it's a combination of all the aforementioned products that I have used on the plants. But there are still some there, and I noticed, you know, with any one of those methods, I have not seen the aphids been eradicated completely. So my garden is looking so good, like for the first time ever. So I'm very excited about how everything's doing, and I want to just keep it going. So I do want to show you the leaves on this one particular plant that I sprayed. Now remember, when I went back and I did the mixture of the alcohol and water, it did say that it could take a few days before you see effects, and I did not use a ton of that, if you remember. So I just did it on a few of the leaves, not the complete plant, because I didn't want to destroy it just in case. I thought that might be more of a harsher product. So but I do want to show you what those leaves look like a few days afterwards. So this is the underside of leaves on my tomatoes, and as you can see, the damage there from the spray, and I'm just assuming that that is from the alcohol and water mixture. Like I said, you can still see I've got some aphids here, if I can get this in the shot, and some of that was leaf damage. But like I said, I am very impressed on how much have been killed off. Here's some of the darker leaves back in here. For now, I'm going to go ahead and end the video and just ask for your tips on what has worked in your garden, trying to keep it organic. I don't really want to use anything on my plants that is going to be harmful to us. So thanks so much for watching, and please give us a thumbs up, and feel free to add any tips or advice, and thanks for joining me on this garden journey. See you next time.